why are you looking at a fiduciary, or why do you think you aren't a fiduciary? And if you are, why should you care? Isn't that why you hired your record keeper? Well, unfortunately, no. If you look at your contract, you will clearly see they indicate in writing they are not a fiduciary, nor can they be legally because of the conflicts of interest. A fiduciary, such as yourself, a finance manager, or a CFO, or city council, all carry personal liability, and therefore it is in your best interest to set up best practices in order to avoid some of these pitfalls. And if you're asking, have any cities ever been sued over this? Yes, of course they have. And we can provide some of that historical perspective further down in the presentation. Participants carry the cost and not the city or the company or the plan sponsor, typically 90% of the time or more. So that is why, since other people are paying for this and you're responsible for or have influence over who is going to service this and the cost inside of it, therefore you are a fiduciary. You are managing other people's money directly or indirectly, and that is why the California Constitution, Section 17, provides ERISA language, almost word for word, as to why you need and what you need to do. So in essence, I'm not going to go over those functions. That's why you hire a fiduciary to go through and do these on your behalf or together. But this is one big reason to understand what it means to have full transparency and get acquainted with your 457, 401k, 403b, 401a, and the cost. What are they? How do they look like? And is it fair? So when you look at factors that play into the costs that your participants are paying, fees have a tremendous amount of variability, different ways to go about reducing them, and there's a give and take. So part of the myths is that I come across is that many think that, well, because we use this record keeper, we have to use those funds. Absolutely not true. Through open architecture, which you have access to, you can definitely use those Vanguard funds, those Fidelity, those American funds. Anything that would improve that fund lineup is incredibly important, not just because of performance, but there's a correlation with those fees. So as the fees turn lower on the expense ratios and administrative, those dollars go back to your future savings and your future retirement dollars. So allow me to provide you a quick example. A $17 million plan such as this had 98 basis points, or less than 1%, administrative and fund fees together. So what you're saying is it's about $166,000 in total cost for that year. Now remember, this happens every year. So as the plan grows, so do your fees in dollars. So when you look at just the subset of the administrative costs, the cost that you as a fiduciary can definitely have an effect on, then you're looking at $102,000. When we run it blind RFI, it goes to your current record keeper. They don't know it's you and its competitors, and ask if you had a $17 million plan with X amount, and we give them the variables that we understand will come about in affecting that cost. It came back with 17 basis points. So 17 basis points on the administrative fee with full control of the share class and fund lineup that you use is a tremendous cost savings and full transparency, which is important. So in this case, we're looking at what does it mean? So part of the other side of the formula is administrative cost is one. The other is that expense ratio. That expense ratio, when we looked at this particular plan, it was about 72 basis points. So our goal was to get it down below that 33 basis points in expense ratios. Why? Well, on the left, expense ratios is the cost of the investment itself. So that does not include that administrative cost. So here we were looking at $125,000 being paid out to the investment fund managers. And if you have a lot of proprietary product, well, guess what? This is also going back to that administrator or your record keeper. You're not fiduciary. This is additional dollars on the expense ratio itself, and then the quality of it compared to its peers in terms of its cost. So you had about 14 funds that were top tier in terms of performance and as well as its cost. Here, if you just switch some share classes and map over like to like, you would drastically reduce, still have the same amount of funds, and you can even dwindle it down for avoiding duplication. So all of these things are important to understand. And if you're a visual person like myself, then on the left is how it was. Anything inside of that yellow box is a performer, Anything inside the green is an outperformer. Anything outside that yellow here is a watch list item, which is underperforming according to its peers. And then out here is way too much risk and underperformance overall, and something that you might want to definitely take a look at and might have to replace sooner than later. Here, when you map out, use OpenArt, get the best funds, lower share class, all of these factors playing in, you can remove all of these and put them closer to inside of that yellow and green box. Voila. So it is important to understand, to have an investment policy statement, to go through those things. How do you choose the funds? Who's choosing your funds? Oh, you're not choosing them? Your vendor is? Congratulations, there's a conflict of interest. So it's really important to have these things set aside, and for your committee, and if you don't have one, that's what your fiduciary, your prudent expert, or us, if you choose to use us in the future, would put together on your behalf. Set up best practices, look at the performance, create those watch lists, set up education with your provider, whether it's Nationwide, Mass Mutual, whoever it is, to do those biannual education seminars with some lunch provided so that we can get more people sitting down and educated and becoming savvier investors over time. And also understanding the power of that fund lineup, how it affects over time, putting those funds through it, understanding performance, when is it time to replace, when is it time to educate participants before anything takes place, and all those things matter. So best practices are what matters here, your documentation, and also looking to make sure that every 3 to 5 years, you are looking at the price and making sure that you can document that you've proven that it's not only fair, but competitive and transparent. I hope this was helpful.